Hi, welcome to my video. This video is a special tribute to Dr. Sarno. This is a thank you to Dr. Sarno. Dr. Sarno, wherever you are, I just want to say thank you so much for your brilliant work, saving so many people's lives, including my own. I have my own personal TMS journey that I would like to share with everyone, and my journey is coming from a place where I suffered from IBS-D and fibromyalgia. So this is my TMS journey, and this is how it began. In 2016, I lived in Orlando, Florida, and I had to get a tooth extraction. I had a pain in one of my upper molars up on this side here, and I didn't have much money, and all I could afford at the time was an extraction. I couldn't afford a root canal to save the tooth, so I got the extraction done, and everything went according to plan. Everything went smoothly. The tooth was extracted, pretty routine, and the dentist prescribed me an antibiotic called clindamycin. So I took the antibiotic as directed, and the reason why the antibiotics are prescribed after an extraction is for the obvious reasons. If there's an infection, they don't want it to spread anywhere in the body, so that's the purpose of prescribing an antibiotic, to prevent that from happening. So I took the antibiotic as instructed, and I noticed within the second or third day I was developing a fever. I had rashes all over my body, and I had excessive diarrhea. Really bad diarrhea, and I realized that I cannot take this antibiotic. Maybe I'm allergic to it. I don't know, something's not right. So I stopped taking it, and within a few days, the fever disappeared, the hives and the rashes disappeared, and everything was fine. The only thing was that the diarrhea stayed, and I had excessive diarrhea. So at the time, I really wasn't sweating it. I kind of figured that it would go away on its own. It wouldn't be a big deal. So days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And it was just not getting better. And it was getting worse. And I started to develop abdominal cramping, and I had a lot of pain in my lower intestine. It was really hard for me to eat food. At one point, I would feel the pain of eating anything, and I was having the runs more frequently. I couldn't be like past 5 minutes from a bathroom. I had to constantly be near a bathroom all the time, and it was getting really bad. So my health insurance at the time was not really good, and I was trying to avoid the doctor. I was trying to avoid medical costs. So I did what anybody would do. I went on WebMD and I tried to diagnose myself, and I looked online, and all I could find was C. diff and antibiotic problems with antibiotics with the digestive system, and everything was C. diff, C. diff, C. diff, C. diff. And for those of you who don't know what C. diff is a bacterial infection that affects the intestines after an antibiotic is used. Mainly, we all have gut bacteria, and when you take an antibiotic, it kind of nukes out all the bacteria, both good and bad. And sometimes the bad bacteria overcrowds the good bacteria, and what you have is they call it a dysbiosis, which is basically a fancy word for an imbalance of bacteria in your intestine, which can cause problems. And if you have this C. diff bacteria, it will actually eat away in your colon, and it can actually even kill you. It can cause fatality. So I was afraid that that's what I had, because my symptoms seemed to be getting worse. So one night it just got really bad. The pain was really, really bad in my colon. Felt like it was on fire. So I kind of surrendered, and I went to the emergency room, and I checked in at the emergency room, and I saw the doctor there, and they ran tests on me, and the good news was they took stool samples, and no C. diff bacteria was found. That was great. The bad news is they didn't know what was wrong with me, and I just had the runs, and she couldn't really tell me what to do. She just gave me medication for cramping, some kind of pain medication, and then she also prescribed me. I was kind of offended. She prescribed me an anti-anxiety medication, and I was like, well, why are you prescribing me anti-anxiety medication for having the runs and for having abdominal issues? But at that time, I didn't understand anything about mind-body connection. I was completely ignorant back then. But even back then, there were little things, little hints that were given to me that this could be something that's mental. So she instructed me to check with my primary care doctor and go from there. So I went and made an appointment with the primary care doctor, and he wanted me to get a colonoscopy just to check everything out. So we scheduled the colonoscopy, and everything came back fine. There was nothing wrong. They could not find anything wrong with me, which was good news, but it was also frustrating. So he gave me the diagnosis of IBS-D, and he pretty much told me that I would have this for the rest of my life. And having IBS-D is no fun for anybody, and especially it is no fun for a gay man, and you can only imagine the reasons why. I don't have to get into that. But it was very, very depressing. I was very upset by that. Being told that I would have to live with this for the rest of my life. So the only thing he could tell me was, hey, take probiotics pretty much, and I wish you the best. And that was it pretty much. So I had to accept that diagnosis, and I became obsessive at that point. I was determined, and I was very aggressive in treating this in a very obsessive way, which was kind of a part of my personality. I took a very obsessive approach to treating this. So I started eating organic only vegetables and taking all kind of herbs, and I took the most expensive probiotics and mineral supplements, and I drank food grade diatomaceous earth, and everything had to be organic, and even the water, I couldn't drink regular tap water or bottled water. I had to make sure that the water had no fluoride in it. Everything was about gut health and gut balance, and I drank bone broth, and very obsessive. Everything had to be gluten-free, and I was obsessed with finding a physical explanation of why I had IBS. And I was so obsessed with it. And the sad part is that I stopped going out with friends. I stopped going to places. I used to love to, I'm a very social person. I love being with friends. I love traveling. I love being with people. I love parties and going to the movies and going out to dinner. And I kind of withdrew myself from doing all those activities because I had to be near a bathroom all the time. And it was too embarrassing to let people know, hey, I have the runs. I have to get up. I have to dodge to the bathroom. It's embarrassing. So I kind of became reclusive, and I was just becoming more and more unhappy. So as time went on, I think I was just beating myself up over the fact that I wasn't not getting anywhere. I was doing everything right. I was eating everything right, and I still was not getting anywhere. I was still having the runs. So, I thought IBS was a problem, and IBS was just the tip of the iceberg of what was coming. I went to the beach one day, and I decided to treat myself and just relax by the ocean and just clear my thoughts. And it was a really nice day, and I was thinking to myself, I have to get the best of this. I can't let this destroy me. There's more serious things in this world that I can suffer from, and IBS is not going to bring me down. I'll just learn how to deal with this in some way. So as I was leaving the beach, and I enjoyed a nice day at the beach, I was walking back to my car, and when I was walking, I felt this excruciating pain in my ankle. And I did not understand what was going on. I didn't twist my ankle, I didn't fall down, I didn't hurt myself in any way, so I don't understand where all this pain, all of a sudden, I just had this excruciating pain in my ankle. And it was very scary. But I figured, maybe I'm just dehydrated, I was in the sun all day at the beach, there could be an explanation for that, I'm not going to worry about it. So, as time went on, the pain left my ankle, and I had this weird pain on my fingertips. Really excruciating pain, like somebody was taking needles and sticking the ends of my fingertips. And I was scared. I thought, do I have neuropathy? Like, what's going on? The pain, it was really intense. And it got so bad, I remember, that I had to ask people to open the doors for me. Even driving, I would just use the palm of my hand to control the steering wheel, because I didn't want to touch the ends of the steering wheel. It hurt so bad. It was very scary. Very scary. And once again, I was just trying to pretend like this wasn't happening. But then the pain left my fingertips, and it went into my side, my right side, and it became really, really bad. It was so bad that it was hard for me to breathe. I couldn't really bend down. I couldn't do anything. And the pain kind of fired all the way into my belly button area. So at this point, with my IBS issues, I was really discouraged with Western medicine, and I was on an all holistic approach about everything in my life. So I decided, instead of going to a doctor about this pain, I'm just going to go to an acupuncturist. And if Western medicine failed me, then at least I can go to Eastern medicine and maybe they can fix me, was my approach. So I went to an acupuncturist. I explained to him this pain that I had, that was traveling around my body, and I'll never forget, he told me, he's like, I will help you, but I think you have fibromyalgia. And I was like, no, there's no way I have fibromyalgia, because I knew a little bit about fibromyalgia. I had a friend that had it, and all I knew is that there was no cure for it, which was frightening, and that it affected mostly women, which obviously I'm not a woman, but it predominantly affected women. So the chance of me, being a guy, I just doubted it, and I told him, I'm like, no, this can't be true. He's like, he's like, you might. He's like, well, let's see. So he did the acupuncture thing. Needless to say, that didn't work. He did acupuncture. The pain was still there on my side. It didn't go away. So I caved in, and I went to the doctor, my primary care doctor, and I explained to him what was going on. So he told me that he was going to run some more tests. They put me through a CAT scan. They made sure that my gallbladder was okay. They made sure that I didn't have appendicitis or rupturing appendix or anything like that. They ruled out all those serious things. They could not find anything wrong with me. So he gave me a cortisone shot on my side, and I was hoping that would work. So he's like, call me back. You make an appointment with me if this doesn't help you. So I went back home, but the pain was still there, and the pain would not go away. And it was very frustrating. So I made an appointment with him again to see him, and I was just really angry at this point. I was in so much pain, and I explained to him that this, pain would sometimes be in my hands, and sometimes it would be in my leg, and then it would move to my right side. And as I was explaining to him all these things, he's like, well, listen, you've been to the emergency room I don't know how many times. He's like, you've seen me a dozen times. He's like, I hate to say this, but I'm suspecting that we might be dealing with fibromyalgia here. And I remember the shock of him telling me that, and then he went on to say that he would be happy to prescribe me Lyrica and gabapentin, and that I should maybe get on an antidepressant, because that would help me deal with the fibromyalgia, that there's no need to worry, that there's medications that can help me deal with this illness. And I really didn't have anything to say. I was just in shock, and just to hear him say that, it crushed my spirit. It really did. And I went home, and after that I really didn't care about gluten-free and organic and any of that crap. I was just like, screw it, like I lost the battle. I kind of felt like I just lost at everything. And I kind of secluded myself into this cave where I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to be with any of my friends. Well, most of my friends had stopped hanging out with me anyway, because nobody wanted to hear me complain about my health issues anymore. Everyone was tired of hearing me complain about my IBS and about, body pain and whatever. So everything I had known about fibromyalgia was just very dismal and very depressing. There was no cure for it. I was going to have it for the rest of my life, and I couldn't imagine my life with IBS and with fibromyalgia together, like two things that I have to live with for the rest of my life. And my IBS, by the way, during all this time was just horrible. Just not getting any better. So I just went into a really dark place, and I just asked myself, do I really want to live? Do I want to live like this? And I hate to say this, but I had thoughts of, taking my life. I was actually deciding which way would be the best way to leave this earth, because I was not going to live this way. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I mean, I still have a pretty good amount of time left. Like, I don't want to live the rest of my life, not capable of doing things and being physically restricted. It was just against everything that I am. I'm a very social person, and this was just making me into somebody that I didn't even recognize. I didn't have a life anymore. I was just afraid of everything. This is a very dark time, and so I was talking to a family member at the time, a cousin of mine that lived in California, in San Diego. And she told me, hey, I'm here for you. If you're tired of Florida and you need a change of scenery and you just want to make a brand new start, she's like, I'm here for you. And you can move to California and stay with me. And she's like, as a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine that works at a clinic. It's called a I'm sorry. It's called a I can never remember this name. It's a transcranial magnetic stimulation clinic. And basically what they do is they put a plate on your head, and it stimulates the brain with electric pulses, and it's supposed to help you produce serotonin. I may be mistaken of how this works, but it's something about putting a plate on your head and electric stimulation, and supposedly this is supposed to help you combat depression and anxiety. and it's very expensive to get. And she's like, well, I have a connection, my friend works there, she's a receptionist, and I'm sure she's really good friends with the doctors. I'm sure we can get you in, and we can do this for you, and maybe it'll change your life. Now at this point, I was open to anything. I was so desperate for a glimmer of hope. And so I told her I would think about it. I would look into it and see. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I went online to look up this transcranial magnetic stimulation procedure, and the abbreviation for that is TMS. Now, mind you, this is not the TMS that Dr. Sarno was talking about. This is transcranial magnetic stimulation, is another TMS with the same abbreviation. So anyway, I looked it up online. I looked up YouTube videos on transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it looks honestly to me, it just looked very scary. And I already had enough problems. I didn't know if zapping my brain was going to help anything or hurt something, and I was just very scary to me. But as I was looking at transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, I discovered a YouTube video, a Dr. Sarno video, a TMS video. But that TMS is tension myoneural syndrome, which has an entirely different meaning. And one of the first videos I saw was Howard Stern's video with Dr. Sarno. And Howard Stern, the famous radio personality, he suffered from back pain for many years. And Dr. Sarno cured him. And then I was very interested. I was very intrigued by this. And this is the first time I ever heard about Dr. Sarno. I never knew who Dr. Sarno was. I didn't know anything about... I didn't know what TMS was. I didn't know what... I didn't know what tension myoneural syndrome was. I didn't know what mind-body connection was. I didn't know any of these things, but I was intrigued. I was listening to Howard Stern, and I also saw a 2020 special on YouTube. It was a short video on Dr. Sarno as well. It has a lot of views. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. And it was very uplifting. But most of these people were suffering from back pain, and I at the time was not suffering from back pain. So I didn't really relate. I didn't see the relation to me. I just thought it was a great story to read or to listen to and watch on videos. But like I said, I didn't see the connection to myself with that yet. But it was very interesting. And I remember as I watched this video on YouTube, I kind of like put it in my little file cabinet upstairs, and I was like, I'm going to save this for a rainy day. Just if I know someone that has back pain, this is very interesting. I didn't think it applied to me, though. I didn't think Dr. Sarno applied to me or what I was going through, because I was suffering from fibromyalgia and IBS. I wasn't suffering from back pain at the time. So as time went on, the pain just got worse, and I had to quit my job. I couldn't work anymore. I was bedridden most of the time, and I was not able to pay my bills anymore. I was not able to take care of myself, which is very scary. I had nobody to rely on. My parents passed away, a long time ago. I had no one to run to. I had no one who would take care of me. That was a big fear. So all I had was my cousin in California. So I finally broke down, and I told her, I said, listen, I'm willing to move to California. I'm willing to make a change, and anything will help me. Any kind of anything different. I need to change it up. I need to maybe change my scenery. Maybe I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try something new, because this is not working. So I moved to California, and I had been to California before, and it's a beautiful place. So I knew where I was going. It's a beautiful state. I was very happy to go there. However, I was just nervous. I didn't want to depend on my cousin. I didn't want to depend on anybody. I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. I didn't want anybody to take care of me. I just didn't want to be an invalid. And just the object of pity and sympathy. I wanted to be normal again. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I didn't want anything special. I didn't want to be a superstar. I just wanted to be normal again. That's all I wanted. So as I was packing my bags and getting ready to get on the plane, I noticed that my neck was really stiff. And this is very interesting, by the way. The pain that was crippling me on my side, that I couldn't walk, disappeared. Completely disappeared, like nothing ever happened. And now all the pain went in my back and on my shoulder blades, between my shoulder blades, and going down to my lower spine. And it was excruciating. It was like it felt like somebody just kicked me and pushed me down the stairs, and I could not get up. And it was such a horrible feeling. And I used to get fibro fire. I used to get this wave of burning sensations up my legs. It was really scary. All the muscles in my body would just hurt, and they would feel so heavy. It felt like I was carrying like 10,000 pounds of weight. My hands, my arms, it felt like someone took a hammer and was just smashing my hands in a million pieces. Like all the nerves in my arms were hurting me. It was such a the dark time in my life. It was horrible. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. But I knew that I had to put one foot forward, and I had to keep walking. I had to keep moving on, because I know if I stayed still, nobody was going to be able to carry me but myself. So I got on that plane and I flew to California, and I was at my family's house in California, and I had to learn to surrender. I had to accept help. I was actively seeking help, and I knew I couldn't do this alone. So I went to a support group at a community center in San Diego. As soon as the plane landed, within the first couple days, I was just very obsessive with getting help. So I joined this community group that, fellow sufferers of anxiety and depression. And that's the best I could do at that time. And I met some really, really nice people. And it was really interesting. I met a lot of people that were also suffering not from fibromyalgia, but they were suffering from other, anxiety and depression. And some people, were abused. And I started seeing similarities in stories, with the people that I was in the group with. So it was very helpful, and I met some new friends, and I noticed that being around other people also helped me feel better, and being with my family also helped me feel better. And I noticed, I still had pain, but at least I had people to share my pain with, and the back pain got really intense, and then I remembered Dr. Sarno. I remembered looking up transcranium, magnetic stimulation, and I remember finding Dr. Sarno's videos instead about TMS and back pain, and I watched those videos. And as I watched the videos again, especially Dr. Sarno's video when they featured him on 2020, it wasn't just about back pain. There was one woman in that video that was on a cart, and she worked at the Rosie O'Donnell show, and she had to take a cart to work because her ankle was hurt. She couldn't walk. And it's like a light bulb went off in my head, like, wait a minute, this is not just about back pain. This could be pain anywhere. And then I started looking at other videos, and I saw other people I saw two women that were promoting a book of Steve Ozenrich. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing his name right. But he was also a TMS sufferer, and he kind of took the work of Dr. Sarno and carried the torch of, mind-body and wrote a book about it. And these women were making YouTube videos based on his book and how they suffered from fibromyalgia. And let me tell you, when I saw their stories, when I saw their videos, I I just I just felt like for the first time somebody knows what this is like. Somebody knows what I'm going through. And I just became obsessed with watching these videos, and the more testimonies I would watch, I would just feel so much hope, and I just didn't have any hope, and it just felt like the sun was shining on me for the first time in a very, very long time. And I watched more of these videos, and then I was like, you know what, I have to read more about this Dr. Sarno, and I have to find out more about this mind-body connection, because this is amazing. This is amazing. So I bought my first book was Divided Mind by Dr. Sarno, and I just dived right into it, and I jumped into it, and I found out that, Dr. Sarno is not just about, back pain. That's such a very simple, description of what he did. He does so much more than back pain. Back pain is just the topping of the cake. There's many different ways TMS can affect you. You can get fibromyalgia, you can have IBS. The mind is connected with the body, and what you're feeling emotionally will come out physically. And as I was reading more about TMS and the mind-body connection, I also realized that, just the very simple things, like if you're very hungry and you see some delicious food that you want to eat, what is a physical reaction you're gonna have? You're gonna develop more saliva. Your saliva is gonna excrete. Your saliva glands are gonna make more saliva. Your mouth is gonna get watery. That's an example of a mind-body connection. When men or women are turned on sexually, there's a very real mind-body connection there. A very, very prominent physical reaction, especially for men. And the list goes on and on and on. We are so interconnected with the mind-body is just so interconnected. And it opened up a whole new world to me that I was just... And what really hit home with me was when I was reading Dr. Sarno's books and I was watching his videos, he described certain personality traits, all of which I had. I was very obsessive. I was a goodie. So, for example, I was a people pleaser. You could ask me for anything, and I would find any way to give you anything I had. I was a good person. I was really good. I was a perfectionist. Everything had to be perfect, and I approached this in many different ways. Even with my recovery, even with trying to find cures for things, and trying to find ways to get myself better, I was very obsessive about it. I didn't give myself a break. It was very hard.